Are there any additions to the agenda? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I make a motion to approve the agenda for July 22nd, 2014.
I'll support.
Motion by Wilson, supported by Christenberry. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Approved, same sign. Motion passed. Are there any items you wish to remove from the consent agenda? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Support. Motion by Grantner, supported by Wilson. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passed. Public matters and comments regarding today's agenda, limited to 2 minutes. Any public comment? We'll start with the appointments for today. Sandy Hendricks, Youth Citizens Council Board.
I guess that's me.
Good morning, Sandy.
Good morning. Okay, this is short and sweet, and I'll read through it. Okay, the 4-H program cost approximately $31,000 a year the past few years. The Oscoda County Youth Program has received money from the general fund in the amount of $1,516.44. There are approximately the same amount of children in the youth program.
It's not on you.
Okay, thank you. That were in the 4-H program last few years. We have approximately 15 Boy Scouts, 25 Cub Scouts. We have about 40 in the youth program. I started in January of 2013 to get the approval for the youth program when I knew the 4-H program would be ending in August 2013. In October 2013, I received the approval from the board to start. Took several months of dealing with the Boy Scouts of America to straighten many things out, including insurance. This project is a pilot project for the state of Michigan with the Boy Scouts. This is being watched by other counties, according to the Boy Scouts, because many counties are in the process or near process of losing the 4-H program. Okay, and the reason why I know that, I'm on the state 4-H council, so I deal with it. It has not always been easy, and a lot of times, there's been a lot of frustration, but the kids are well worth it. Okay, we started with $1,516.44 minus $500 for the fairgrounds rental. And then twice we put in for reimbursement, which left $586.27. We also had the Lions donated $160, VFW donated $200. Carol Ellis and I both put in $33.62. Okay, the amount in the checking account as of now is $336.74. So besides the fairgrounds, we have spent $516.57, and that's been for books and for registrations for the kids. For the Heritage Days, we had approximately half the kids involved in the Heritage Days, either helping or watching or being involved with some of the things. Our youth kids helped with the 3 horse rides there. We had 110 people, the youngest 10 months old and the oldest 80 years old. And both of them had never been on a horse before. Okay, we had many kids watching the milking, sheep shearing, spinning, the blacksmith, butter making games, and our carriage rides were very popular. And then the one night we had about 40 kids around the campfire Christmas. Okay, that's it on that.
I have one question,
Sure.
Sandy, and that is, Paul Perry came to this group and said that is it Masonic? Yeah. He said that the Masonic Lodge was participating with this program. I don't see them listed there.
Okay, they're raising their own money.
Understood.
So I don't have a report from them on their money.
So that was over and above what you've got here?
Right.
And I guess the question I have is why, if they were supporting it, why did the 24117 go to?
That was for the Cub Scouts. They don't support the Cub Scouts. The Masonic Lodge only does the Boy Scouts.
Well, it says 24117 BSA books, so
Well, the Cub
That
Scouts
is-
are under the Boy Scouts of America.
that is a Cub Scout program.
Yes, it is. Because the Knights of Columbus, that is just, they support the Cub Scouts, they just meet them. They don't support them financially.
Knights of Columbus supports the Cub Scouts.
Right, just as a meeting place.
Anything else? Any questions? So all in all, you would say it was a successful event?
Yes, yes, and we're planning on it for next year and hoping to make it more, again, for the community because there was no charge to get into the fairgrounds. Carriage rides were free. Everything was free but the pancake breakfast.
And is there anything afoot to encourage more campers out there?
I think we need to get the word out better on camping.
Because I believe,
We didn't have a lot of campers, but a lot of people came in for the day and then left and came back.
I mean, I envision this possibly getting something like what we have for the
Northeastern?
Northeastern.
Yeah. That would be nice.
Maybe not to that level.
Yeah.
However, if we could at least fill the campground with.
Well, we're working on getting the Civil War reenactment back that they used to have at Michigan Magazine. And we're also working on getting the draft horse pulled back. Things to do more with the heritage of the town.
Very good. Thank you very
Okay.
much, Sandy. We appreciate
And
all
if
your
I
hard
have
work.
a minute here, this is about His Love Family Resource over here. I'm not going to read it all, but many people don't know about the His Love Family Resource over there, the Pregnancy Center. I'm a patient advocate counselor there, that's why I brought this up. And as you look through, it's like last year they gave out 21,000 diapers. They got 50 new clients signed up. They've got 1,159 clients. And this is another service that many people in the community don't know about. And I would like to invite the commissioners, whether you come together or one at a time, to come over there and take a tour and find out the programs that they have. And my biggest and fondest thing is at Christmas time last year, we had 115 kids come through. And those were their Christmas gifts. Because we get a lot of new toys and items donated and gently used toys. And if it wasn't for them, a lot of people wouldn't have food for their kids. We've had people during the summertime, you know, vegetables are donated. And I heard a real sad story the other day about one family last summer. That's what they survived on for part of the summer. They learned how to cook squash. That was the only thing they ate for part of the summer. So I just, a little tidbit, and I would like to invite everybody over there to take a look at it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Jason Beck, EMS Director.
For quarterly reports, starting back from April all the way to June, so I think we're going to be covered now. We actually had it, we were ahead from what we were last year. In that respect, we're doing very well. As of this morning, in our county accounts, we have $132,336.96 available. That's in the county budget. Our personal account this morning was at $35,527.95. At that current, amount, like I said, we are ahead of time. We are ahead from where we were previously from last year at the same time. At the current amount, we have approximately, if we didn't make another dime, we have 3 months expenditure available for us. Other than that, I said we're doing very well. We've had a larger call volume than we had last year. Last year, our total call volume for the year was 1,250 calls. We're on track to hit 1,500 this year. So, other than that, that's not much else to tell you about finances. Do you have any questions?
I added them all up, all your figures.
Okay.
And it looked, you know, if this hits average, what you were, let's see, what the charges will be, you ought to have like close to $1 million in charges. 927,
Assuming we have the 100% collection, yeah.
823, well, yeah.
And we're staying
And
on
then
track for that.
collected, you should end up with about 741,000.
That's right.
That's after revenue received.
Yeah. Our biggest problem.
Do you think your good bad debts, or is the write-off will be around 12%? Because that's what it is right now.
I would love to tell you yes. I would absolutely love to tell you, but I can't guarantee it. Medical billing isn't like regular billing, it's very inconsistent. Right now we have a steady source of income coming in with a steady transfer, and that's why our percentage is so high right now. We're currently collecting at around 84.7%, which is up from 69% where we were last year. Actually, I think we were less than that last year. It's not going to last. It's going to last as long as our dedicated transfers last for. So, I mean, if the gentleman were to discontinue service or pass away, that changes completely. So I'm trying to base it off that, but your projected incomes are correct.
So these averages, if you hit the average, that would help you out tremendously.
It absolutely would.
And that one in 2013, under the write-offs, is that right figure, 271? I added up all those numbers and I came up with 88,409. Is there a misprint in there somewhere? Because I thought,
I'm
my
sorry.
God, that's a high number. It's on 213 on the third column over.
Oh, okay. Well, that's fine.
Write-offs, it says 271,000. And
Oh,
when
that's
I
definitely
added
right.
those numbers up, it came out 88.
That's much better. Yeah, no, that's definitely not right.
I just want to know if there was something in there, because I
No.
thought, boy, would that change that percentage.
Yeah, big time. No, that's not right.
Okay.
So, again,
So you're happy with these numbers?
I'm extremely happy with these numbers.
Okay.
We can always do better, and hopefully we will, but we're doing way better than we were last year. Still without the knowledge, we weren't going to be able to sustain services at our level, but we are on track to it.
You said that your collection was like 85%,
84.7.
84.7.
That's based off.
At what point last year?
Around the same time, well, actually, that's based off of June's numbers specifically. At June of last year, we were at 69%.
69,
Correct.
substantially better.
Substantially better, yeah. And so that'll change considerably if our dedicated transfer stops. That's where a lot of it's coming from, so it's augmenting our call volume as well as our income coming in. And that's where a lot of it comes from, excellent report writing and excellent billing, so.
Now, this is the dedicated transfer that you said is out of county?
Correct. It starts,
And this is in agreement with Tri-Town?
yes, and actually, Tri-Town is in jurisdiction over it. What it is that he's in Hillman, actually, so we agree with Hillman. He started as a patient of ours coming out of Well Springs. When he moved back home to Hillman, he requested to stay with us continuously, and so we can do that transfer. It's a rare exception when people only provide to county residents, but he was and started as a county resident and moved out. So, as long as he's happy with our service, I'm happy helping him. So.
Okay, moving on.
Okay, same thing I have for you guys. I have a request for new time management software. Presently, we're using a program called Wenderwork, and Wenderwork does not do time clocks or do any kind of punch in, punch out. What it does is it does schedule and sets a schedule for people to look at. It's not accurate because there's no accountability for any kind of hours. Like the accountability on that for hours doesn't show overtime. That's a big problem for them. This new software allows us to merge the schedule with an actual punch-in system so they can better track where our hours are. It has built-in redundancy so people can verify their own time card and sign and punch in. And when we're done with it, they export over to the clerk's office. There's no payroll involved with this. There's still advantages to it.
Wait a minute, what do you mean by no payroll involved in this?
Oh, I should back that up. Sorry about that. The original previous, I've been researching these for about 3 months now. The initial software we were looking for that we loved, that we really liked, wanted to take over payroll, and that was a bad idea, and we scrapped it. What they want to do, so basically we would do the schedule, you do the punch in, punch out, it gets shipped out to a third-party pay company that does that does payroll and does all the taxes and stuff like that, and that's what they wanted to do. We scrapped that, and the clerk's office is definitely like, no, don't do that, don't mess things up. So we went back and we researched and found 2 different software providers that allow us to do scheduling and allow us to do punching in and punching out. Once it's done with that, and once they do the punching in and punching out, on Monday morning, instead of submitting a giant stack of purple timesheets, there'll be one complete sheet that I'll get to Kelly, and then it gets done. The biggest...
Sounds like it might be a little more efficient.
100% more efficient. It'll eliminate a lot of the problems. One of the big problems we have with the software we have now is that it's not always accurate with the scheduling and how it's done. And we have to go through time cards. It takes 2 to 3 hours to go through them with 3 different checks to get everything right, and even then it's not always right. With this, that eliminates all that because anybody can look at hours at any time. They can also look at where they're at. And on my side of things, I can see how much overtime I have allocated. I can see how much straight time I have. We can also project where I have potential labor increases. So it's a huge, huge benefit for us.
It goes back to the old thing that many years at GM, other people can punch in and out. So it ain't gonna be that accurate.
Yes and no.
It's basically the same thing we got right now, but we're not gonna be spending this kind of money that we ain't got right now. That's the big problem. We don't have the money at this time. If you remember what the auditor said, watch our spending. And this is quite a bit of money per month.
It is more than we're spending now. We're spending $315 for the year right now for it, for the software we're using right now. It is a little bit more money, but actually, we do have the money for it right now. It is a little bit more money. To go back to your first thought with the accuracy, there are 2 things. When you have to log in on the computer at the station, and you punch in that way. The other option you can do is if you have a smartphone, you can log in within the parameter of the station, and it'll log you in. It allows to accurately track your time. No one else can do it but you. I do have the option to do fingerprinting. I'm not a huge fan of that. I never have been, so I don't think it's a necessity. My biggest problem isn't from people false punching in. In fact, actually, that's not a problem at all here. My biggest problem is tracking hours and accurately be able to see where my time is at. The other advantage of the software, and this will help with one of the union grievances against us, or that was in the past, is that it'll actually show us in order who has seniority, who you choose from first for picking up shifts, and that's a huge thing. I agree this is a substantially increasing expense compared to what we were paying, but honestly, this is one lawyer's bill per year. We usually spend that over for a lawyer for a grievance. So.
Well, also, this will cut down on the payroll parts.
Yes, substantially. They actually have the option to be able to tie it into Harris software. If we want to do that, we'd like to do that. At this time, the clerk's office said they just want to go print out paper and just do like we were doing before with just a sheet that has their raised hours on it. It'll also calculate FTO, PTO time, as well as holiday pay. The 2 vendors I had listed, the third one dropped out just because they were too complicated, had too much stuff going on, was not user-friendly, but the costs were comparative. The 2 I have listed are EMS Manager. The total price for EMS Manager is $13.95 annually, plus $1 per month per employee for an estimated total of $17.43 to $18.15. The reason why there's a variance in the amount of money between the 2 is they don't do it on every single employee. So if I have 35 employees, if only 25 of them punch in for that entire month, I only get billed for 25 of them, not all 35. And that helps out really well for us because we have probably about 10 or 11 that go off and play, and go off and be our Forest Service firefighters, or they are just contingent, don't really pick up shifts that often. So that helps out in saving money. Net Time has the same exact options. They do charge a little bit more per employee. You're looking at $4 a person. You also have a one-time setup fee of $900. However, yearly, their annual fee is considerably cheaper than EMS Manager. It's a lot more user-friendly, and the interface is much, much easier to use. So as the employee looks at it, it's actually just simple icons to click on. It's very user-friendly.
I don't know. You got 2 crews out. You get a call for a 3rd crew. They're coming in, they got stopped to punch in and out.
No.
Go to work. Then
Not at
your
all.
time clock card ain't doing what it says.
No, but they have the
You're
ability
still
to...
trusting the people to put down the right hours like you have been all this time, and you still double check it now.
True.
And it's been doing this way for how long now?
I'm throughout
Say that
Cruz,
we should do this countywide?
I would like to see it happen, but it's not my choice, it's what the county is. I mean, I can speak for my department on what works out. Actually, we have several big problems. This makes it far more efficient. The other problem we have is that we have two crews, two different stations punching in by our reviewing time sheets right now, which means they have to be brought down from another station. Does it always happen? No. Does it mean I have to drive out to Greenwood in the morning on Monday morning and get them? Yes. So that's easily 40 minutes out of my trip there and 40 minutes back to get it. Correction, 30 minutes. It's just very efficient this way. It's much easier. It also reduces any kind of risk of tampering with time cards from outside sources. So it also, because of the way the system is set up, it actually is accurate for scheduling. You can match scheduling up to actual hours punched in. The punching part's not necessarily, it's not as important as the actual tracking is. I mean, obviously my guys come in, they're relieved. My night station, for example, is a 24-hour station. So you obviously know if your relieve's not there, and I don't know why I think your relieve's not there, so that's not a big issue. The biggest issue is just being able to track the hours and match them. And also have projected outcomes of what my budget's going to be. Right now I don't have that. I don't have the ability to tell you that I'm spending this much a month and be exact with it for employee, employee hourly.
You got a one-time setup fee of $900.
Mhm.
You got the annual, which is $1,815 per year, plus $1 per employee, and what you got to pay for Greenwood, you're gonna have to have an
Actually,
system
no.
out there.
No, actually, that's not accurate. Under that time, it's $900 setup fee, and then it's a total up to a max out of $1,680 a year. That's if every single person punched in every month. And there's no separate setup fee for Greenwood. It's the exact same
The use
fee.
of software is also $4 per person for punches.
Right, and that's the
So
all
these are
inclusive.
actually $5 per person each time they punch in and out.
No, $4 per person. It's not each time they punch in and out, it's $4 per person for the month. Correct. Which equals a total of $1,680 a year.
So in your mind, this is gonna save you money, save you more than you're spending.
Yes, easily.
Give you more data
A lot more data, like a massive amount of data that I don't have right now.
and cut down on the payroll clerk's time.
Yes.
Computing.
If the clerk's department decides, if the county clerk decides to go with the Harris software adaptation world to tie into it, it saves them a ton of hours. If they do not, it still saves them a ton because they don't have 35 cards to go through every week, or 5 weeks or rather. I guess simply put, yes, it does save them time.
This is.
Well, he's asking for a motion.
Are you asking for a motion from us, or
I am.
this is under your
It is.
your jurisdiction to get this if
True.
you want?
It is, however, it goes over my capital expenditure for one, and for two, it's a contract. Anytime I enter a new contract, I get the board's permission. So that's the only reason, otherwise I've already done this.
Well, if you think it's worth it,
I absolutely do. I think that we initially started this last year trying to fix it with the work, and it just improved to be what it should have been. It was very limited. It helped out immensely in a lot of ways. Helped out a lot of our scheduling issues, but it wasn't meeting what it should have done. So this allows us to do punching in, which eliminates the time cards and the issues we've had with time cards. So it also eliminates that data I've never had before, I've never had access to. So
well, if you think it's worth it,
I do.
I'll make the motion to allow Jason to purchase this software and the time clock system for the ambulance.
Motion by Grantner, supported by Christenberg. Any further discussion?
You're saying here about the per month fee, $4 per person.
Right.
Is that just one person for 1 month, $4?
Yes.
So that's 4 times 32.
No. It's 4 times the amount, only if they punch in. They don't-
It could be 20. It could be 20.
That's why I have it listed under if you look at the estimate total, it goes from $1,392 to $1,680 for the year.
I mean, with millage up in the air right now, it's crazy to contract this kind of money right now until after the millage. It's not feasible to spend this kind of money.
It's not an
When you
excessive amount
don't
of
have
money.
it right now.
I do have it right now, and it's not an excessive kind of money. And if worse comes worse, And I'm saying, and
If
if,
your millage don't go through,
It
you still
doesn't-
gotta pay this.
no, we don't, it's already paid for.
Yeah, it's paid for now, but
Right.
you don't get it. It's money gone down to two.
I'll disagree with you.
If we end up closing, we're up money, we're up $18,000 if the start still grow,
$1,680.
plus monthly fees and everything else.
That's all inclusive.
Roll call?
I'd like to read the motion, at least, so we have our understanding. A motion to allow the EMS ambulance director Jason Beck to purchase a time clock and enter into an agreement with, which one?
I'm sorry, wasn't that time?
Net time solution.
Correct.
In the amount of, is it the 900 what we have to work with right now?
Up to, yeah, that'll be the initial, or $900.
Just one minute. Is that okay, Mark?
Thank you.
Elaine? Okay.
Wasn't this before with the other setup that we had before, the secretary and everything else, had payroll and scheduling set up. People come in, they put the time sheet on it, and they'll turn it into the secretary, and she would address all that and send it over to the treasurer. Chain and stuff.
Typically she does it to me and I look it over to, this way we have a triple stack system, which is very time consuming. We still can't quite get it right. We still miss stuff, and it's mostly, it's human error. It's writing on stuff and not reading what it says or not being on the right date and that kind of thing. So, it doesn't, my secretary will still have the same amount of authority I do where she can change things and adjust things accordingly. And she sees the same thing I am, so if I'm not there, it can be readjusted accordingly, be done on the fly. The biggest problem we have with time cards is human error. You just can't write right, wrong dates, that kind of thing, wrong amount of hours added. And that's the biggest problem. This eliminates all of that.
Roll call.
Commissioner Wilson?
No.
Commissioner Kushner?
Yes.
Commissioner Warner?
Yes.
Commissioner Kushner-Berry? Yes. Commissioner Grantman?
Yes.
Thank you for your time.
Sounds like an ice cream truck.
Makes you hungry, doesn't it?
He uses it on the second floor of your back.
There's one truck. Okay, moving right along. Stephanie Ward and Jeff Bowman. We meet regarding the Dennis Kaufman Memorial Day.
Good morning. Did you get, or did you give me, I've got bigger ones, is that?
They've got a copy, but they got little ones.
Yeah,
So if you have big ones, that will help their eyes a little better. You might be able to read this one.
Thank you. Oh, that's much better.
Really, thank you.
There's some difference.
Well, good morning, thank you for having us this morning. With me is Jeff Thoman. You have not met Jeff yet. Jeff is taking over for Rod Nelson. Rod retired at the end of May, and so Jeff is going to be your new lead engineer for any of the construction projects we do here at the airport. So I wanted to bring Jeff along, and so you would get to meet him and introduce you. And he actually did a little bit of time up here when we paved the runway, but it's been a bit of a while.
Yeah.
And we had the pleasure of being able to fly in this morning. We had a 7:30 meeting in Holland this morning, and ran out of there and got on the plane and were able to fly in, and so it was wonderful. Couldn't have done it without general aviation, so it was wonderful having the airport here. A couple things that we wanted to go over with you this morning. There's a little bit of an update. I think you've had some information through Brenda and through Lee about where the airport is at. The FAA about 2.5 years ago now, almost 3, went through a process, and I think we talked about this a little bit the last time I was up, of classifying all of the general aviation airports. They went from all 3,000 of them being in one group, being general aviation, to being split into 4 different airport categories. Unfortunately, Mayo was not classified in any of those because of the lack of based aircraft. As you can see in the items on the smaller page, the kind of agenda piece that we put together, you're one of, well, you're not one of 34 airports, sorry, that's a typo, you're one of 4 airports in the state that were not classified. And so you're in company with Ryder City, Grayling, Lambertville, and Mayo. So what that means basically is the FAA has kind of thrown their hands up in the air and said, we don't know what to do with you. You are still, because you've taken federal funds, federally obligated as an airport, but at the moment they're not planning to include you in the 2015 funding cycle. So we're working to try to figure out how do we adjust that. Their hardest stance is about the based aircraft. That's the first criteria, is you have at least 10 or more based aircraft. Right now, I believe we're sitting at about 4 or 5. So one of the things that we're looking at doing is trying to figure out if you have a number of users who are flying in, and we consider them usually to be itinerant operators. An example we used was if they're flying up from, say, the Pontiac area, and they might be based at Pontiac International. If you can convince them to register their aircraft here at Mayo instead of being registered in Pontiac, then you would get credit for that aircraft. Pontiac has plenty of them. They're well over their number that they need for their classification. So that would be an option. So one of the things that we expect to talk to Lou about a little bit further yet this afternoon is how do we reach out to those folks that are coming into the airport? Where are they based? Another option is if you have any private or aircraft that are based at private strips in the county. They get no credit for being out there. If we can get them to register here at the airport, that would be a benefit as well. So that's kind of our goal. One of the things that we thought we had that was going to be take care of it was our 30-minute drive time. You'll see on that list there's several criteria, and a number of them are ORs. 10 based aircraft, or more than 30 minutes from another NIPIAS airport, or being of significance for U.S. Forest Service, CBP, etc. When we got the airport initially included into the system about 10 years ago, one of the arguments we had was that you were more than 30 minutes from Grayling. They have now changed their...
30 miles.
Well, 30, it was miles, and for a while it was minutes. It's now flopped back to miles, and you're still 30 driving miles, but FAA is now using nautical, so flight miles. So by flight miles, we don't make it. So it's been a moving target. So what we're kind of focused on is, we're not going to change that element. So what we're focused on is that based aircraft. So the upside with that is that the state of Michigan is very adamant about trying to work to get you back into the system. You're not out of the system. You're just unclassified and not qualifying for funding at the moment. So they worked very diligently on your behalf trying to formulate a justification. It's fallen on deaf ears so far with the FAA, so we're not abandoning that fight. We're going to continue. What FAA has established is basically a 2-year rotation, that from the date of their issuance, they're going to review these every 2 years to make sure, specifically those that are in the lower tier or were non-classified, as to how you may or may not come back into the system. So we're hopeful that if we can put a pretty good effort in here over, say, the next 6 months, by May of next year, we would hope that maybe we can get you back into the system so that you might only lose 2015 funding, is our goal, and hopefully maybe not lose any funding at all. So that's kind of where we're at with the classification. I brought a copy of the study if anybody has insomnia, if you're interested in it at all. It's a pretty large document that they issued and has every one of the 3,000 airports listed in it right now, what they're classified as. As we look at existing funding, you have quite a bit of entitlements, the $150,000 federal funds that have been rolled over. And so if you look at the third bullet item on the list, our status of federal funding, you're carrying over about $14,000 from 2012. We've got all of the 2013 funds and all of the 2014 funds. The FAA was trying to snatch those back, if you will, after the non-classification, and the Bureau of Aeronautics fought very hard to say, no, we need to maintain those for the airport. They have several important projects ahead of them that we need those funds for. So I do have a copy of an email that we were allowed to look towards the obstruction removal and the associated land acquisition with that. So at the moment, you can see, once we have the state match and the local match planned for, we have just under $350,000 to work with for the projects. So what we've proposed for 2014, if you remember when we did the runway paving, we had several trees that were obstructions that were right there along M72 that we bought abrogation easements for and removed the trees. It's kind of a domino effect that once you remove those, then you're able to see farther and you say, oh, there's more trees. To keep from continuing to do that, what we've gotten the Bureau to agree to is to allow us to do an aerial survey so that we can identify all the trees in one fell swoop. It's not, what can the eye see? We go in and take those down and find another set. So the contract that you have before you for $33,000 is a approach analysis, where we'll actually have a sub-consultant that we work with quite a lot called Quantum Spatial. They'll come in and do an aerial survey flight of the airport. They will take the aerial imagery and develop that into 3D points so that we'll be able to tell and identify specific trees that are obstructions to the approach and identify where they are and identify what properties they're on so that we can then form a plan of how do we get those clear. Our plan with this is that should something happen that we aren't able to get your federal funding back, and this may be your last project, the airport will be brought into as full a compliance as we can at the present time with making your approaches as clear as possible so that you wouldn't have any issues with aircraft coming or going in and out of the airport. So you can see that's the only project we've committed to right now.
Just 1 second.
Sure, please.
You're talking about the east-west runway?
Correct.
We're not talking anything to do with the north-south runway?
Absolutely nothing to do with the north-south.
Thank you.
Nope, just the existing.
Sorry I interrupted.
Nope, please do, that's a good question. We've had that question before. So what that will do is will allow us to, I'm going to guess probably late October, early November, allow us to be able to come back up to you and present to you and show you what trees are obstructions today, what obstructions are close to our approach surface. If you remember, basically off the end of the runway, the surface we're trying to clear is a 20-to-1 slope. So from the end of the runway, for every 20 feet we go out on the ground, we go up 1 foot in height. So we're trying to clear that approach. And it actually extends out well over 5 miles. Now, by the time it's out at the 5-mile mark, we're hundreds of feet above the ground, so it's not too big of a concern. But we are looking probably in that first quarter mile off the end of the runway that there are still some trees that appear to be an issue. And we'll know more after the survey to identify what that looks like. Because we don't have that information back yet, you can see then that's why the remaining 2 projects that are shown for 2014 just say TBD. We don't know how many easements we would then need to procure or what the obstruction clearing looks like. So as soon as we have that information back, we'd be able to come back to the board, present what those findings are, and then determine how to move forward. We anticipate that we shouldn't have any problem handling those projects within the existing funds that are available. And if anything, if you look down to then the 5th project, the 5th bullet with future projects, our hope is that we will find a minimal amount enough of objects that we have to deal with that we could still hopefully pave the taxi streets within the existing funds that you have available. So that's kind of our goal, and that's where we're working towards. So if that were to play out, we would hope then for the taxi street project early next spring, as well as then any of the land acquisition and obstruction clearing. So that's kind of the package in its totality where we are right now. So that's using those funds to, I guess, best protect the airport if we can. If you look at the larger view of the 10-year plan, which is now just a 5-year plan, the Bureau of Aeronautics was adamant that the airport do continue to develop the 5-year plan and submit it because they are not ready to say that you're not going to get funding. And so you need this on file to continue to be eligible for that. Everything that we just talked about in the 2014 is shown in 2014 in the survey, or in the CIP. And then we've shown a buy year in 2015, and you'll note that we've noted as non-classified asset status. So we said 2015, we are not sure what's going to happen. We're not going to allocate anything in there. We'll assume that we're going to get our status back then in 2016, and that's when we look for taxiway construction in a worst-case scenario. It's our goal that it'll actually be 2014, but that's where it would show up if we get you back into the funding, worst case. Have I lost you yet?
No, I have a question.
All right.
All right, if we're trying to get 10 county-based aircraft, can we move this thing around the 5-year plan? What if we could construct more hangars to get the 10 in there, or would that, do you have to do something else?
I like the way you think, Mark. We would love to do that. Unfortunately, the approaches, because that's a safety-related issue, takes precedence. So one of the things that we could do is we could look at if you wanted to site bypass the taxi street paving and focus that 120 towards a building, we could certainly do that. And so there is some flexibility of trying to get that hangar. And again, if the approach projects come in
So
much
there is
cheaper,
some
that
wiggle room
could happen,
here.
right. We
Also-
have to do the survey and we have to clear whatever obstructions are found. But after that, then it's more fluid.
And then if they don't, if we don't qualify years down the line, how long, if you said something about, because we receive money, we're still under federal guidelines here, how long does that federal guidelines last?
It's a really good question. By the letter of the current law, it's 20 years. So from the last time you take federal funds, so if we're, going to do this approach survey and then we do land acquisition or the obstruction clearing, from the date of your last grant, 20 years is what you're continued to be obligated. There is a question right now because of what has come out of the asset study of if those airports that are unclassified, if they would be given a waiver,
I was going to say, they backed out their deal, why can't we back out
Exactly,
ours?
and that's a lot of the conversation that's being had in the industry right now of, well, what would you do? We can't hold you to the same standard if we're not willing to be a partner with it, because it comes with responsibility.
Another question, it says to be considered, because the U.S. Forest Service would use our airport, that's a count against us?
No, if you could get them to commit that your airport serves some sort of value for them, that could be something that we could use as an argument. We have a number of airports, especially out in the Pacific Northwest for forest fire use that strictly exists for forest service use. There's some backcountry pilots who will use it on occasion. So if we could...
Somebody you could at least go ask.
Yep. And I'm not sure if the state did that when they were investigating this or not. I was not able to get that answer out of them before we came up for the meeting today. So that could be something, with them here in your backyard, that might be something that they might be willing to commit to a letter, and that might be enough.
And when you said that this NPIAS airport has to be 30 plus miles away, where's the nearest one from us? If Grayling is in our bunch, then where's the nearest airport?
Well, that's the question that we had, that if Grayling isn't counting as being classified, should it actually count? You have to go to West Branch or Oscoda.
That'd be over 30 miles.
Yeah,
West
yeah.
Branch.
So if you drop out Grayling, you're more than 30 miles away.
What does the National Guard airstrip there?
It is a Nimpias airport, though. It's within the system, and they receive federal funding even though it's Guard-owned.
So that's within 30 miles.
It's within 30 miles, and that's what's counting against you right now, but they're also unclassified. So our argument was, if they're unclassified, are they really functioning?
Do you have a county airport there?
They don't, just the Grayling airstrip.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a joint use, it's open for public use.
So there's still a few questions.
Yeah, we're asking some of the same questions about if you're going to count them as being 30 in the Nimpias, but we don't know if this unclassified keeps you in the Nimpias, that would make a difference.
Are you involved with Grayling?
We are not.
Okay. Do you have any idea?
We're talking with them. I doubt they're going to get any based aircraft either, just because it's so much more military heavy. and the, quick time up I-75 to Gaylord.
Is our runway long enough to handle like an aircraft that could come down and scoop up water for the Forest Service? Could we handle that, the land?
Not very well. The structure of the runway itself is probably not designed to handle the weight of those aircraft very well.
No, I mean, it would be not a routine, on a routine basis. I mean, anything can happen once or twice without it being an issue, but if it becomes a regular scheduled event, it's probably not going to hold up. It's not going to be designed for that type of load.
Well, we only have one good forest fire every 10 years or so.
You're probably safe.
I shouldn't say good.
So as you can see, the rest of the plan plays to the Commissioner's comment about the T-hanger. We do have that in there. It's had to move down a little bit because of the obstruction issues, but it's certainly our goal to get that in there as quick as we can if we
So
continue
again,
to
we
get the
have some
funding.
room in the 5-year plan, but we do have to do that land
Correct.
acquisition
And
and that study, site study.
Correct. And we're just hoping that it will come back with fairly minimal obstructions today that we should then be able to move forward.
So in a nutshell, we're in a holding pattern.
Yeah, probably till November till we get that information back and I can come up and show you what we really have to work with.
Stepping back a little bit, you made the statement regarding closing the airport. We are committed to maintain this airport for 20 years after the last funding.
Correct. The grant assurances that the county signs every time you take a federal grant. So I'm not sure, but I don't think you've got any grant documents right now because the commission transfers tomorrow. So you should be getting them.
We just have that one contract.
You just have our contract, okay. The state of Michigan, because they act as FAA's agent, you sign a pretty healthy, set of grant assurances that are part of every time you take a grant. And one of those clauses is every time you take that, you can commit to maintain the airport to its, safest condition and to maintain as a public use airport for a minimum of 20 years.
But again, that's up in the air too, the 20-year thing.
Exactly.
Because
It's
they
never been
went back on
challenged.
their deal.
It's never been challenged after they decided to pull their funding.
Right.
Yeah, so I would think that it would at least drop by half, I would hope, or even more. I mean, that's what I'd argue.
And like I said, that conversation is being had throughout the industry right now because how can you hold you to this certain level because you came in with the understanding that you were going to get that federal funding and now you're not, so is it going to be maintained? We quite candidly expect that this is probably not. It's still playing out. Many of these airports, there's a supplemental element to the report that went and reclassified all of the unclassified. There were over 300 nationally that didn't get classified. And, so each state's got 4 or 5 that didn't get classified at all. And we're expecting that that's going to come into play in the next funding cycle. Right now, every GA airport, whether you're Pontiac or Mayo, get 150. Seems a bit out of whack if you're Pontiac. They're saying, well, I have, hundreds of based aircraft, why shouldn't I get more? So we anticipate that through the next funding cycle, they'll adjust that, in which case it's probably where those that are unclassified probably won't get any additional funding, and we're expecting they might relax the, are you then a part of the NIPIAS or not? Now, the Bureau has said that, because of the investment that's been made in the airport, they would still consider doing state-local projects. And so far, the state-local projects they've been doing at a number of the sites are still at a 90-10 split. So, it's still, there's still funding sources out there to maintain the airport outside of the federal, but they're going to be smaller projects.
Who would, now what did you say is going to argue this about pulling away the money and that would reduce the obligation, the federal obligation?
Well, the industry as a whole is discussing it, and the biggest place I've heard it is the National Association of State Aviation Officials, NASAO. So that's all 50 state directors who are having that conversation saying, if our airports in our home states are going to get penalized like this by saying, just because you don't have 10 based aircraft or 30 miles away, and you're not gonna give us funding anymore, then you need to cut us loose from your federal restrictions so that we can go about our business. You know, in Mayo's instance, there would be some benefit to that because, you know, some of the approach requirements, some of the maintenance requirements, those are all slightly less under state regulations compared to the federal regulations. So, you know, I don't think the state's gonna say, gee, Mayo, would be great if you guys decide you don't wanna have an airport. You know, they've found that it's very advantageous to have the airport here, and I hope the community has. But they acknowledge that there's still investment here, and you're part of the entire state system, and I identify as that.
Let us know what's gonna happen.
I will keep you posted as soon as I know. So I think we've got, what, 3 items? For your consideration. One is the,
Actually, two.
2? Okay.
The one is
Oh, is that it?
for the 5-year plan, and $500 is from our step. That's the updated one.
And we've got, I don't think they've set a meeting date. You haven't gotten an email from MDOT yet, have you? For MAP meeting? No, I don't think so. Okay. So the typical process that the Office of Aeronautics does is annually we have what we call a MAP meeting, Michigan Airport Programming Meeting. It's held down in Lansing. Lee came down for it last year. And so the Office of Aeronautics has indicated they're still planning to have a meeting for Mayo, even though this funding question is there, to keep moving forward. So that's why they've asked that we do submit the 5-year plan and attend that meeting once they set out the date.
If it goes against us, is this gonna be prorated then? I mean, if they unclassify us, what chance do we have to get back into the mix?
Well, as Betsy told me, she expects to see this just so that you can have your 2014 money that's left.
Okay.
And she needs this to be able to show, as the continuing argument, that we still have projects you still are interested. She said if you choose not to submit one, that's a clear indication of you're ready to write it off and you're done. And I said, I don't believe that's the case, but I would take direction from the board. If that's what you'd like to do, we can certainly do that too.
I'd like to hear what they have to say. So I'll make the motion to accept the Oscoda County Dennis Kaufman Memorial Airport 5-year capital improvement plan for fiscal year 2015 through 19, prepared by Dean and Hunt Incorporated, as presented. Authorize the chairman to sign the agreement for services authorization for payment in the amount of $500 to be paid out of Airport Special Fund 295.
A motion by Grenier, supported by Berger. Any further discussion? Roll call?
Commissioner Kishner?
Yes.
Commissioner Warner?
Yes.
Commissioner Christenberry? Yes. Commissioner Gretner?
Yes.
Commissioner Wilson?
Yes.
I'd really like to know about that wiggle room, how much money we're going to have left, because if we can get the hangers, then we would be included.
I'll plan that when we come back up in November, once we have the, hopefully it's even October, as soon as we have the aerial information and know what that looks like, we'll plan to bring up, we've got several hangars that we've done recently, we'll bring out some cost estimates so we can talk about it.
Thank you.
Second motion?
And that, the second motion is that contract to be able to do the approach survey.
This is one right here, right?
Yes.
That's how much is it?
It is $1,697.
And that's coming out of our,
It should be about $738.
that's
Should be,
coming out
is
of
the local
funds.
share.
Okay.
Yeah, the $33,000 is coming out of your federal, your local share of that should be about $750.
How much?
About $750. Now, the Bureau's gonna add a little bit for administration, so, you know, if you wanna hedge your bets, I'd probably say around 8. They will be sending you a bill, but you probably won't see that, I'm gonna guess, until October timeframe.
Okay.
So you used the 750 figure? Or?
Yeah. 1,700.
750 or 1,750?
Should be about 750.
Oh, 750?
That's what I thought.
Okay, because that was one by the local share here for the approach survey.
Oh, did I take that wrong?
That's what it says for local share is $1,697, so. But,
Oh, yeah, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong number, yes, 1,700, sorry.
sorry.
Yep, thank you, Brenda.
Okay.
Throw our money away.
I'll make the motion to authorize the chairman on behalf of the County Board of Commissioners as the sponsor for the Dennis Kaufman Memorial Airport to sign the agreement for professional planning services with Mead and Hunt Incorporated for the airport project, approach survey to support approach clearing as presented and authorized. $1,700 payable to Mead and Hunt Incorporated, move from contingency, and authorize the treasurer's office to appropriate funds to the airport, so amend the revenue and expense lines affiliated.
Motion by Grander, supported by Christie. Any further discussion?
Just that should be coming back on us.
Oh, they will do
Okay,
MDOT?
I'm done.
Right.
I was gonna give you the money. So it's payable to MDOT.
Not Mead and Hunt?
Not me, right.
Okay. Can
I
you change that?
Everybody hear that?
Made that correction.
Roll call?
Commissioner Warner?
Yes.
Mr. Christian Berry? Yes. Mr. Grantner?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Fishnick?
Yes.
I will do that. Thank you.
See you in November.
Okay, first item on the old business is the feasibility study discussion by Amoresco. This was brought up last meeting or 2 meetings ago? 2 meetings ago. And this is regarding a feasibility study to determine what needs to be done here to be more efficient. There is no charge for the feasibility study. I guess my question is, you've all had an opportunity to read what they do. Larry and I did talk to 2 commissioners from Alpena who have utilized this service and sing their praises to no end. However, Alpena County is a substantially larger facility or area than what we have. Did you want to comment on what Cam and Darrell, or not Darrell, but Lyle said?
It was very expensive. They're saving the money in the long term, but you're not gonna see it right away. It takes a while to get the money back. It's not an overnight thing. And they spent quite a bit. They say they're starting to see a little bit here and there, but they won't know until next month when all the electric bill and stuff comes in, then they'll start seeing how much they are saving. We could use it. The study is free. I guess it ain't gonna hurt to do the study, but I don't know county at this time how much it's gonna cost us to do this. It could be very, very expensive.
Oh, the feasibility
The
study is
books are
free.
free, so I go along with doing free, do that. And I can see what they have to say, but that's no cost. So I'd make a motion.
The motion is to authorize Amoresco to conduct a feasibility study on the Oscoda County buildings at no cost to the county, and to appoint two commissioners and Joe Brio, the maintenance supervisor, as the project committee to work closely with Ameresco.
I'll make that motion, but I don't know who it's up to you.
Thank you. Do I hear a support? Support. Motion by Wilson, supported by Gardner. Now, do we have any further discussion?
Should be something like finance. Just the two authorities.
I'll designate somebody.
Okay.
Did you raise your hand?
No, I know it's a question.
Should we draw some costs?
Then just money at a later date. You want to do it now?
Well, Larry is on the finance committee. So I would say Larry and Bob work together on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Okay?
Commissioner Wilson and Warner, along with Mr. Joe Brio.
Yes. Not Commissioner Jordan.
I said Mr. I gave him the Mr.
They didn't say how long before they come in here.
I'll email her and let her know that we've agreed and who our contact people are.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Okay, fuel purchase. Guess that's the next item. We are getting down to the point where we do need additional fuel out there. We have 3 very busy months. Fuel sales have been going quite well out there. We're at the point, Dave says, that we need to put fuel in the tank. The new price is $5.42 a gallon, and that's based on 1,000 gallons, so that would be $5,424.16.
Did you check, Brenda, and you said 500, it's gonna cost us a lot more?
They won't do
She
it.
just, her email states that she won't even give me a price on 500.
Cost effect, it's not cost effective to deliver the 500 gallon pump.
I just thought she was checking on that. I didn't make sure we were.
I think this is dated this morning.
Yeah,
or
I just
yesterday.
got the email this morning.
What we bought last time was 1,000.
No, bought 2.
2,000.
Oh, okay.
All right.
2 things it'll do, it'll freshen up what we have, and I'm saying July, August, and September should be very good months on it. Someone want to make a motion to authorize this?
I'll make a motion to purchase 1,000 gallons of the 100 ml aviation fuel from Ag Fuel Corporation in the amount of $5,424.16. From contingency and authorize the treasurer's office to appropriate funds to the airport and so amend the revenue and expense lines of the airport.
Do I hear support?
I'll second.
Motion by Christenberry, supported by Grantner. Any further discussion? Roll call?
Commissioner Gretner?
Yes.
Commissioner Wilson?
Yes.
Commissioner Kushnick?
Yes.
Commissioner Warner?
Yes.
Commissioner Christenberry?
Yes.
Correspondence reports. I have correspondence from the clerk's office, clerk and register of deeds, and she is letting us know that is making a request to hire a payroll specialist immediately, replacing Kelly McDonald upon her resignation on July 17th, 2014. Last day, August 18th, 2014. So we do not need to have a motion on this. Mr. Wilson has raised the question whether this needs to be posted, and that will be looked into at the conclusion of this meeting. So I believe this does need to be posted based on our policy for anyone that would like to have that or to bump into that position. And if no one answers that from within, then we can go outside and select a replacement from Kelly. Any objections or discussion that you would like to make on that? Any other correspondence, reports, and/or resolutions? So we'll move right on to committee reports, Mr. Berner.
Well, Monday, 7/21, I attended the Oscoda County Youth Program. The Americans Day was real good. Had a nice turnout. Several organizations have donated to Boy Scout youth groups. And the budget was fairly good. I just attended the EDA this morning. And apparently they had, I don't know if you want to give us there was some, bracelets that was handed out? Bob Madison.
Yes.
Something about some bracelets being sold to the kids. Did he bring that up? The 4th of July?
Yes, I don't have the statistics on that. They made something like
I think it was like $700.
Yeah,
that they made out. And they had on the courthouse and the fireworks. Yeah, they made $700 through the scholarship, and they're going through the scholarship. And then they had the Michigan Jeans, which some of the kids, Brian Watrous was going to get some of the men and stuff like that.
Thank you, Bob. Mr. Wilson.
7-8, Jack, Bill, and I met together. We went over this Homeland Security Grant Program. This is a program that goes through the LAPT and LPT, and they wanted us to take this over at this time. Bill, treasurer, felt that we're not capable of handling it because counties that do take it have what they call a coordinator or administration person that handles this. We don't know. We have a Brenda, and we all agree that it's not really feasible for our county to do it, so we're not going to take that one over. 7-8, Saddle River Board. On the Saddle River Board, we approved one home construction on the Saddle River by Ross Common. They made all the, it was all approved. Now it was the building department. We approved the variances and everything approved and went through. 7-9, EDC Board. They're working on starting a new project. What is that actually called? Something in the dark, Tim? Oh, Mike's there. I see him.
We're at the very initial stages of getting a dark sky designation for a portion of our county.
Private land and make it public.
Well, it's
What's the tax rules?
We're at the very
Not good.
stages of it.
We had one complaint that went to the Brownfield Board. Mike checked into it with Randy Booth. Randy Booth has been taking care of it. I guess it's meeting all satisfactions. And Brownfield Board's going to get with Dwayne Rodney, and he's going to go over some of this stuff that we're being brought up, and questions that need to be brought up today. So we're going to be working on that. 7-17, Bob forgot to mention Governor Snyder with the South River. 7-17, I have Standard Museum Historical meeting. They went over funds. They don't have no funding for lighting at this time. We're very limited funding out there, so most okay. Friend of Steiner's couldn't have a meeting, but I did get with Fairview School, and they're considering taking over the Chronicle magazine for the Steiners because Mary DeMont's retiring, and they're looking at a project for the kids to be working on. So it might work out as a great deal for Fairview School on the Chronicle. 718 claims and audits. 721 last night was Elmer's Township meeting, basic meeting. They went over some of the fences around cemeteries. They got a new hall, a new building behind the hall. They stored their tables and chairs and outside light, just a basic meeting with the budgets and stuff. And that's all I got.
Thank you, Larry. On June 8th, Larry's already talked to you about the Region 3 fiduciary for Homeland Security grants. It was announced yesterday at the Northern Michigan Council, or Michigan Northern Counties meeting that Oscoda County has taken over that fiduciary responsibility. 7-9, Bill Kendall, Gary Whitman, Commissioner Christenberry, and Brenda Moore met to review on the revisions for the personnel policy book. On the 9th, we attended the Oscoda County Connect meeting of the Economic Development Alliance. And the gentleman that just walked out, Dr. Tim Jenks, gave a presentation on the reasons for updating and expanding the master plan. 7-11, the landfill board of directors meeting. I think we went down in record time. I believe we were 10 minutes. But one thing that did come out of it is that the lagoons are down significantly to the point where we can now tell whether there's sludge that needs to be removed from those ponds. But that evaporator is working fantastically, and the fact that we're not hauling any leachate out there at all is fantastic and a tremendous cost savings. On 7-11, I attended the Heritage Days event at the fairgrounds. Saw several vendors out there and a lot of horse people and people with their other animals out there. And while I was a little disappointed with the attendance, I was happy to see at least the fairgrounds being utilized for Heritage Days. And again, I went back out on Saturday and basically the same thing. I would have liked to seen a few more campers out there, but that was not to be. On 7-12, also I attended the fly-in at the Dennis Kaufman Airport. Again, because of some inclement weather south of us, some of the people were not able to make it up here, but we did have some representation. I think we had 4 or 5 aircraft come in and utilize the airport. At 7-14, the Council on Aging meeting. Things continue to move within budget, but just barely. Service requests continue to increase in staff, and we've had to make some staffing adjustments. Road Commission, discussion about who will replace Johnny Johnson. Those of you, I'm honestly not sure what Johnny Johnson's official title is, but I do know he does a lot of grade work, a lot of the engineering work for the Road Commission. Also, he's on sick leave now. He has back problems. And he quite honestly shocked me when he offered his resignation and the board approved it. So Johnny Johnson has officially resigned from the County Road Commission. That's going to be a big hole for them to fill. And hopefully when they find a replacement for Ron Gruner, he will have an engineering degree that possibly they won't need to replace Johnny Johnson, but that's going to be a major problem for the Road Commission. Big Creek Township meeting on 7/15. They continue discussions about the Northwood Club and the solution to its renovation project. And Dave Smith gave an update on the invasive species along the Oscoda River watershed and the work that their committee is doing. On 7/16, landfill claims and accounts. Then I had a budget review with Brenda, and then a personnel employee handbook review with Jerry Benton, Doug Kendall, and Brenda Moore. On 7/17, NEMCOG, Northeast Michigan Council of Governments. Finance Committee meeting, first one we've had in probably 8 months. We reviewed the audit, the current budget, and the new budget that's projected for 2014-15. They're on the end of the fiscal year is September 30th. And then the Michigan Northern Counties meeting yesterday, presentation by Emmett County Public Works Director Liza Seltzer. And they've developed a model recycling program that's won numerous awards. And it's been upheld by the state as exemplifying best practices in recycling. And if anybody has ever seen the recycling program over in Emmett County, it is phenomenal. So I believe it was stated that at the NACO conference in New Orleans this past week, they were cited as one of the 2 premier recycling programs in the United States. So if anybody has an opportunity to look at what's going on over there in Emmett County, please do so. That's it for me, thank you.
July the 9th, the committee met to go over the personnel policy, and was also there too. July the 12th, I was at the flying at the airport. We had a good turnout and lots of good food. July the 10th, the Oscoda County Planning Commission met with the Township Planning Commission. We had a good meeting with them, and they came up with a lot of good ideas of what they would like to see in their community. July the 16th, the committee met again to finish up on the personnel policy. July the 16th, I had a teleconference with the Northeast Michigan Health Plan. We went over their budget and their claims. July the 18th, I had claims and audits. That's it.
Thank you, Vic. Mark?
On July 10th, I was at the Oscoda Valley Community Mental Health Building Committee. We toured some group homes for the Oscoda County School, or not Oscoda County School. Oscoda School bid specs are out on the 21st. We discussed some small projects at various buildings. July 14th, I was at the Water Supply Advisory Committee. This is with District Health and the EPA and the well drillers. And they had a discussion on plugging old wells. And this seems to be a problem over on Lake Huron side, Oscoda County, but the well drillers are saying building department should not let people build over their wells, because then they look right, because they have to have a new well drill. That was the answer for the well drillers. And you would think that the well drillers were, at these meetings, would be, they want to take shortcuts and stuff, but I found the well drillers, they're very protective of the aquifers around here in our drinking water. It was, very comforting. Anyhow, on 7/15, again, the Oscoda Valley Community Mental Health Executive and Finance, we went over some contract renewals, and we're going to start renewing the administrative policy and procedure manuals, and there was discussion on the Northeast Michigan Regional Entity Budget process. And on that letter, Bob, about the substance abuse, I guess you're still going to be on the board, but Northern Michigan Regional Entity is going to be funding, or it's going to be like the supporting agency, and you're just going to go under their umbrella. Dave Beck will be here August 12th, and so any questions you can ask him. Last night I was at the library meeting. They picked a carpet vendor. There was other discussions on renovations, the smoking policy, the foot block they purchased, and that's it. Oh, you want me to do this, Sue, or do you want to do it?
No, go ahead.
Dr. Jenks asked me to let everybody know that on Wednesday, July 23rd, that's tomorrow night, at 6 o'clock out at the old Michigan Magazine, it's called the Skyline Event Center. They're having a business community leaders picnic and forum on take the scenic route to the bridge. It's a 30-minute show, and everyone's invited. Share your views from the community. That good enough, Sue? There's a couple other ones over there too, that if anybody wants this. That's it.
Thank you, Mark. Public comment.
Go ahead, get these guys.
Go ahead, Bert.
I'm just a little concerned here. Your own auditor had mentioned that if things don't happen with the millage, that there's going to be big problems with the ambulance.
His statement was based on the 2013 audit.
Okay. Well, I'm a little puzzled. For centuries, managers managed without elaborate computer software. Is it really that vital that you need this software to spend that money at this moment?
Times are changing. Technology makes everything faster and quicker.
Well, we all know that's not exactly true. I mean,
But to me, I think it's going to be a moot point anyhow. If the millage doesn't pass, the county can't support it. That's $250,000. We can't support that. I look, and I'm just speaking for myself, I look at either the ambulance is going to be privatized or it's going to go back to a volunteer ambulance service.
Thank you for your comment. Comment? Dwayne?
I just want to let everybody know that over the weekend, we did a certification for basic river rescue and water rescue, which was attended to by the Sheriff's Department, EMS, and the Fire Department. So it went very well. About 20 hours in that training.
About 20 people?
About 20 or 22 people total.
Yeah. First day we had extra 22, second day we had, I think, 20 or 19. It's just up certifications, one for swift water, one for open water.
Were they all from our county, Dwayne?
Yes.
Step one was in the middle.
The one was again, these people come up from Wyandotte, Lake St. Clair, and Harrison, and we are going to now be certified. We're going to look at a program in case we have a water rescue that these people will get called out right away. We've all been trained, we'll be certified. We're headed in the right direction. We're protecting the people on the river. It went very well.
Okay, sure, Chris?
August 16th, it's one of my last. I'll probably have one more before your next meeting here. But August 16th, we have our Badges for a Cause 5K walk run, and the starts at the Sheriff's Department. Registration will be in behind the White Courthouse, just off 33 here, and it starts at 9 o'clock. The registration, 10 o'clock is the race. $20 right now until the end of the month for to get a shirt. We've had some real good sponsorship from a lot of local businesses. We'll have auction items, etc., donated items to be able to be put on for auction. We're also looking at doing like, if you've ever been to a Relay for Life, those luminary bags, where in support of someone you can buy and decorate a bag and then we place out front of the sheriff's office on the night of the race and then take it back down. That's something new that we're trying to start this year. Get with me if anybody has any questions. I have registration forms, et cetera, for the race, and answer any questions we have on that. I'm going to get with Jay and work something for the paper, probably for next week, but in town and just north of Maya, we've had a few larcenies. Basically, they've been of unlocked vehicles. We're a victim of chance, basically, where somebody has gone in and taken electronic devices, including GPSs, etc., sunglasses, and change, etc. So I just encourage everybody to be diligent, lock things up. I would hope that you wouldn't have to, but unfortunately you do. And to protect your interest in the matter and report anything that's suspicious. I know that we've probably had 6 to 10 over the last month. I mean, not absorbent, but enough. And I think a lot have gone unreported also. So just encourage everybody to lock things up and make yourself not an easy target based on what I'm offering. So and I'm going to work with Jay. He's going to do something in the paper for next week. Probably. So And the last is, obviously, it's the last time to mention our millage. Again, there's 3 of them coming up on the county level. One is the equipment millage for the sheriff's office. And if anybody has any questions on that, it is a new by language, but a renewal, in my opinion. Basically, it's nothing different than what has been paid for many years on the equipment side. 0.25 is what the millage is, and again, used strictly for equipment purchases and maintenance, all that equipment. So if you have any questions, feel free to know.
Actually, I have on July 31st, we're having an open house at the ambulance service, sponsored by the employee association themselves, with hot dogs and soda and different things of that nature. You can feel free to walk through the trucks and walk through the house and see what the ambulance space is all about. Also, this is an opportunity to answer questions about the millage that's upcoming as well. Just want to get that out there as well.
Thank you, Jason. Do you have a comment?
Not yet. Later on down the line, I might.
I see you're all dressed up.
Yeah, Saturday, I was cutting some brush. Dropped a tree and began to
I heard about you.
reach down to pull some branches, brush a branch hit the trigger, chainsaw come up, got me here, and the wrist. It's about
Okay,
the
any other
thickness of
public
the
comment?
paper away from the jungle.
I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Oh, well,
Too late.
no.
Our adjournment.
Yeah, but at the same point in time, there's been, I've been hearing some quite a bit lately, some rumors. I wanna straighten it out and let you people know that as far as the Veterans Affairs go, I am not creating any roadblocks. I am not trying to cause some problems and delays or any other thing. I'm 100% for the veterans. I'll back anything there is to do with the veterans as long as it's lawful. So if you hear these rumors, they're definitely not true. So,
Thank you. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Thank you, everyone, for coming. We appreciate it.